What can I say? I'm from the past.
On January 29th, 2021, I uploaded a video entitled Ranking the Games I Earned Platinum Trophies in Throughout 2020. Then earlier this year, on January 31st, 2022, I uploaded a similar video, only this time I was talking about ones I earned in 2021 because uploading the same video would have probably just been a bit overkill. Altogether, these two videos account for close to 60 platinum trophies that I've earned over the course of 2 years, and I plan on continuing this into 2023 and beyond, where I'll talk about the plats I earned each year. For some people, that seems like a lot. For others, it's a walk in the park, but for me, it was enough that I felt I could make at least a couple of videos about the subject. To date, I've earned over 100 platinum trophies, and since I won't be talking about any of the games I've platinumed so far this year until early 2023, I decided to take a moment and reflect on the games from before 2020 that I earned platinum trophies in. Back then, I wasn't as focused on that sweet dopamine release that comes with that salacious little jingle, but now that I'm obsessed with it, I want to hear it more. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. This will work very much the same as those other two videos. Each game will be given a rank of bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, based on how much fun or difficult it was I recall unlocking the platinum for it. I'll go in ascending order, starting with bronze and making my way up to platinum, and by the end I will have talked about the 29 platinum trophies I earned before I started doing this as a yearly thing. Keep in mind, this is me making this list well after I've earned these trophies, as opposed to how I've done it for the past few years, where I take notes as I'm working on unlocking them. I don't have infinite time to go back and recomplete most of these, so this is what you get. For posterity, I used psnprofiles.com to help me track which games I platinumed, when I platinumed them, what trophies there were, and so forth. So there might be some minor inaccuracies in regards to date unlocked or whatever, but with all that said, we've got a bunch of games to look at, so let's not delay it any longer and just get into the bronze tier. There's only one game in the bronze tier this time around, because at some point before 2020, I apparently had some semblance of standards. That singular bronze tier game is none other than My Name is Mayo, the infamous simpleton game that only asks you to tap the X button in excess of 10,000 times on what is essentially an NFT of a mayo jar. There's a few cute little story bits thrown in, and the occasional costume or dressing change makes the experience at least a bit more enjoyable than just sitting there tapping a single button, but it's so stupidly simple that I can't give it anything other than a bronze tier ranking. And with that out of the way, we can safely move on to the silver tier. Accounting Plus is a game made by Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame, as well as William Pugh, who helped to write and design the Stanley Parable. These two obviously have an interesting sense of humor laced with meta commentary, so of course the fruits of their union is an over-the-top VR title about accounting that quickly goes off the rails. The trophies themselves are a mixed bag as much as the content of the game, asking you to do very specific tasks with little insight in how to complete them, but making for a little fun experience all the same. I do wish that some of the trophies were a bit easier to decipher naturally, but aside from that, it's an alright game that's really only fun once outside of the mysterious zoo level, which I would love to play any day. And as such, it earns a silver tier ranking on this list. Before the remake came out in 2020, I wanted to replay the original version of Destroy All Humans, one of my personal favorite games for the PlayStation 2. I recall having a lot of fun just running around harvesting brains and launching cows across the map or whatever, and thankfully that same level of fun was present in the PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 4 upload of the game where I earned this platinum trophy. Sadly, the process of earning trophies in this game was daunting, both here in the original and the remake, but here it was more due to some outdated design and an excessive grind for brains that I recall taking up more than half of my total playtime. I still enjoy this game to a great deal, and of the two, this is probably the version I would like to try to platinum again if I were to ever try and do such a thing, but that doesn't mean I have to enjoy it, and this game ends up with a silver tier ranking. I earned this platinum on April Fool's Day, which is a bit fitting because I feel like a bit of a fool for getting this platinum. Fallout Shelter is basically just a port of the free-to-play mobile title of the same name that I had already played a bunch of before I got this, but here I had to pay money for it. Overall, the game isn't bad. I mean, there's a reason I was willing to pay money for it after all. You manage your vault, keep your dwellers happy, and maximize efficiency, but going for the platinum requires you to go against the grain a bit too often for my liking, forcing you to purposely keep yourself under-defended or make purposely bad decisions, and it feels almost like a Bethesda game in that regard, so kudos. Fallout Shelter is a lot better than most free-to-play mobile games that got console ports, but I think I'll stick with the mobile version from here on out, giving the PS4 version a silver tier platinum. The LEGO games are some of the easiest games to platinum, really only requiring a time commitment to collect all the bricks, studs, characters, vehicles, and whatever else they have you grabbing. So typically when I'm looking at the quality of a LEGO game, I base it less on the collecting side of things, which is a majority of the trophies, and more on the story the game tells and any special new gameplay additions that throw on top of the formula. The first of 3 LEGO games we're looking at for this video is LEGO Marvel's Avengers, which is separate from the LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1 and 2 by being the one that takes place within the MCU. Overall, it's not bad, but I just remember not having as much fun with it because I already knew the movies, and LEGO themselves made a far better LEGO game a few years prior, more on that in a bit. While it's fun to see some scenes from the MCU in LEGO form, the game ultimately fell flat for me, not really offering much else new to the experience outside of MCU quips, so this one gets the silver brick tier. Most shooter VR titles are just elaborate shooting galleries, trying to hide the fact that that's all they are, with the flashy set-piece moments or dynamic environments where shooting commences. The American Dream, meanwhile, embraces this idea by turning it into an NRA carnival ride, complete with cheesy cardboard cutouts, stationary speakers, and tantalizing targets. As you play through the game, each level has these little stars littered around that you have to shoot, but some of them can fly by so quickly that you basically have to replay the game to have another shot at it. Combine that with most stages having their own additional objectives, and you have a game that's fun to play, but just tedious enough to platinum for it to be saddled with a ranking on my list that's as silver as the bullets you're firing. Most Ubisoft open world games play very similar to one another, and nowhere is that blueprint more apparent than in 2014's Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs is really just Grand Theft Auto with phone magic, but with a somehow worse protagonist who has the audacity to claim he's the hero by the end despite the deplorable acts he partakes in. As far as trophies are concerned, the real sticking points are the invasion minigames where you have to invade someone else's game, as well as the drinking minigame. That particular little ditty took me well over 2 hours to complete because it was the last thing I had to do. There's 3 locations on opposite ends of the city, and you can't just sit at one and wait for the guy to sober up because the game hates me. Overall, a slog of an experience to get through by the end, and I was glad to be done with this silver tier ranked platinum. God of War has been a staple of the gaming landscape since Kratos first slashed his way onto the PlayStation 2 in 2005. But in 2018, with Cory Barlog at the lead, Santa Monica Studios revived the franchise anew. With a new camera perspective, a massive open world to run around in, and a boy by your side, the game excelled at breathing new life into an otherwise one-note franchise. And for the most part, offered a fun, if occasionally frustrating experience for platinum hunters. The Valkyrie fights themselves are an obvious stopgap for many a would-be hunter, with Gondel, Rota, and obviously Sigrun giving me considerable trouble. But for me, the real sticking point as to why this game remains out of the platinum tier are the Ravens. Trying to find all these squawking little bastards was a real pain in the ass, and that combined with my nearly hour-long attempt at Sigrun drops God of War down into the gold tier. Job Simulator asks a simple question. What if robots in the future wanted to understand basic concepts of human life so they could then create interactive museum exhibits? Well, you get to see the hilarious fruits of their labor as you fix cars, cook food, work at a convenience store, and be an office worker, each with their own list of tasks to complete. Along the way, you'll complete additional silly objectives like making soup with soup in it or winning the lottery, but will sadly always be stuck standing in a singular location with little to no explanation to be found, something I'm glad the game's sequel managed to fix. Either way, this is the first PlayStation VR Platinum I ever earned that I wish had a bit more to it, and so it is given a congratulatory gold tier ranking sized pat on the back as opposed to a pay raise or healthcare, because that's how things seem to work these days. By far the easiest of the Kingdom Hearts games to platinum, this one falls shy of being a platinum ranked game because it becomes tedious to collect everything by the end. The Mickey emblems alone took up a significant chunk of my time, and that's just one category of collectibles within the gummy phone that need to be filled in. Thankfully, I don't have to self-identify any of the characters in the lineup because that way lies madness, but it is overall not a bad experience. It's just a long and tedious unlock process without any real challenges outside of maybe 1 or 2 gummy ship fights or getting excellent with all the cooking recipes, and as such is awarded a gold tier ranking. LEGO Jurassic World itself is honestly nothing all that special when compared to other LEGO games, but it does have dinosaurs to play as, so it gets points for that alone. I just remember getting into the groove of collecting everything in the game as you tend to do with a LEGO game, and ended up just getting myself everything before I knew it, hence the platinum. The dino mixing minigame is kind of fun, and I'm glad they decided to include the 3 original films into this package instead of just trying to make one film stretch out into 15 levels. Looking at you, LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. So in the end, I enjoyed myself. But it felt just short of being one of my favorite LEGO titles in a number of fronts, not the least of which being the fact that it's technically my first ever platinum, when it should have been Octodad Dadliest Catch. So practically out of spite, and because this is arguably a mid-tier LEGO game in my opinion, it's relegated down a stud into the gold brick tier. The movie that released alongside it might be terrible, but Ratchet & Clank on PlayStation 4 was a mostly harmless reimagining of the original Ratchet & Clank game. The updated visuals make this a treat to play through. The fact that you have Quark telling the story posthumously while locked up for his crimes was a bit of a fun subversion, and in general it was just fun to play. That said, the Death by Disco and Faster Than a Speeding Amoeboid trophies took a considerable amount of fun away from the experience, tarnishing an otherwise fun but slightly forgettable overall game. At the end of the day, I can't really say I had a bad time aside from those 2 minor points I mentioned before, so this one will be ranked as gold as the bolts you collect throughout the game. Resogun is one of the best PlayStation 4 games that nobody talks about. It's a simple shoot-'em-up style game utilizing a voxel engine from the folks at Housemarque of Super Stardust and Returnal fame, so I genuinely don't know why more people don't talk about this game. With its wide variety of game modes, a full ship customization engine, multiplayer options, and a lot more, there's just a lot to love about Resogun. Even the trophies are for the most part a lot of fun to complete, save for maybe some of the harder difficulties on the standard mode as well as 1cc, where you have to complete arcade mode on the highest difficulty setting without losing all your lives. Difficulty aside though, this game is still one I play to this day simply because of how much fun I have with it, and just because of that pesky 1cc trophy, this otherwise fantastic game is awarded a gold tier ranking. Saints Row 4 is loud, obnoxious, a mixed bag of quality and content, and one of my personal favorite games ever made. I know that the game isn't as well liked by fans, or even Volition themselves to a degree, but when I sit down and play a game, I want to have fun, and I have fun playing Saints Row 4. The only 2 issues I ran into were the loyalty mission trophy for Ben King glitching out and not unlocking originally, as well as having to spend 40 hours in the simulation, since I completed basically everything within 25 hours and just had to wait it out. In general, I just loved my time with this game, but those 2 little issues kept this game out of the platinum tier and instead finds itself in the gold tier, which works for me because gold goes fantastically with all of that royal purple. A fantastic exploration of a young woman's depression and trauma, Sea of Solitude is a stylistically brilliant game with 1 or 2 minor problems that keeps it from being truly fantastic in my eyes. The design of the levels and world is wonderfully executed, with each of the monsters you encounter representing someone in Kay's life and the environments you traverse being situated in places she's been or heard about. But nestled within this brilliance are some minor annoyances, such as the game's 2 primary collectibles. The messages in a bottle are at least thematically appropriate, offering insight into Kay's state of mind and being another glimpse into said tortured mind. But I feel like the seagulls offer no real purpose outside of being something else to collect, and it feels very distracting to hunt them down. Maybe I just have a problem when collectibles are birds, I don't know. In general, I enjoyed my time with Sea of Solitude, but the need for collectibles bogged this one down for me, and so it is saddled with a gold tier ranking on this list. South Park is no stranger to gaming consoles, first appearing on the N64 back in 1998 with the simply titled South Park. But in 2014, Obsidian Entertainment worked closely with Matt Stone and Trey Parker to bring us South Park: The Stick of Truth, one of, if not the best South Park games to ever release. And in 2017, Ubisoft Montreal followed up that success with South Park: The Fractured But Whole, which takes place the day after the first game ends, where everything switches from a war between humans and elves into a full-blown superhero showdown. Both games function similarly in terms of their platinum completion, and so I've just lumped them here into one to make things a bit easier. Complete each story, collect all the things that need collecting, all while farting on everyone you meet or defiling everyone's toilets as you go. Both games are a love letter to the franchise and the game genres they're parodying, but there's enough little annoyances with each one to keep them out of the platinum tier for me. And I'm willing to award both of them a gold star on their Craig/Tweak fan art. Borderlands as a franchise is all about mayhem, guns, chaotic characters, guns, comedy, and guns. But in 2014, Telltale Games made the strange decision to almost abandon 3 of those key aspects when they made Tales from the Borderlands, and yet it's somehow one of the best games in the whole series. Like most Telltale games, this is a point-and-click adventure game that follows new characters Reese and Fiona, following the events of Borderlands 2, with the series' trademark snark remaining intact while injecting Telltale's signature ability to make me cry. As fun as trophy completion is, literally all you have to do is play through the game once, making this platinum agonizingly easy, but was still a fantastic overall experience. Normally, I wouldn't rate something this simple this high up, but Tales from the Borderlands is a bit of a special case because of just how darn good it is in my mind. And so I'm alright giving it a gold tier ranking. I wasn't really sure how well Undertale would play on console given some of the tricks the game utilizes to remember data and whatnot, but I was pleasantly surprised by the overall experience. The story and its characters all remain intact, and while it's encouraged that you play through multiple times to see the various endings, you only need to complete the game once to earn half the trophy list. The other half is why this game is stuck with a gold tier ranking. Leave it to Toby Fox to be a bit of a troll, but the second half of the trophy list features a console exclusive section where you donate money to the Dog Shrine, asking you to farm up to 350 gold coins by either selling items or killing enemies depending on what route you're taking. Overall, it's not hard to do, and it's a fun little dig at the trophy system, but I personally would have preferred trophies for doing multiple playthroughs or something, considering how much the game changes between pacifist and genocide runs, so this one just gets a gold tier ranking for that alone. A charming little indie game about being an insatiable hole that can't stop consuming everything within reach, Donut County is just a darling of an experience that does not star Kirby. The Platinum basically asks you to play through the game and do a few fun additional objectives as you go, adding another puzzle layer to this darling of a title. It's nothing too difficult, doesn't just hand it to you like some other games might, and overall the experience was fun to play through, which is why it's the first Platinum tier ranked game on this list. I technically already talked about my experience with this game, it being the only game that I've platinumed twice across 2 different platforms that's basically the same experience, not including remakes. The only real difference between this PlayStation 3 version and the one on PlayStation 4 is that the PS4 version runs a bit smoother and loads a bit faster, but otherwise they're basically the same game. I will say that my original video is wrong because I should have ranked it as a Platinum tier game and not Gold, but you can check out my 2020 Platinum Trophy ranking to hear my thoughts on what should retroactively be considered a Platinum tier ranked game. My second favorite LEGO game to date, LEGO Marvel Superheroes, was so fun that I completed it again on PlayStation 4 after having already completed it on Xbox 360 years prior. Like any other LEGO game, the key here is completing the story and doing all of the stuff in the open world before running through the story again, but I never found myself getting bored while doing it like I did with Jurassic World. But unlike Jurassic World, my thoughts on it have not soured over the years, and I would gladly complete this one on PlayStation 3 again just to relive the experience. Plus, the game lets you play as Stan Lee and he has basically every possible power in the game, so how could I not give this one a Platinum tier ranking? Insomniac have made some fantastic games over the years, but arguably one of their best has to be Marvel's Spider-Man for PlayStation 4. The open world Manhattan is the most realized version of the city to date. There's a fantastic selection of villains to combat, a bunch of abilities and gadgets to unlock, all packaged with a great story, wonderfully realized characters, and tons of potential for future installments. Even the copious amounts of collectibles wasn't something against this game, simply because they designed them to be fun and easy to collect, making hunting for all of the backpacks or stopping crimes feel as natural as anything else in the game. I may have had a few minor hiccups while playing the remastered edition of this on PlayStation 5 when that came out, but in general, Marvel's Spider-Man is still a fantastic game and easily deserving of a Platinum tier ranking on this list. Similar to its 2016 PlayStation 4 counterpart, A Crack in Time is a fantastic Ratchet & Clank game, but unlike the one that got a movie tie-in, the 1 or 2 minor hiccups I have with A Crack in Time aren't enough to keep it out of the Platinum tier. Sure, the space missions can be a bit tedious at times, but collecting everything and playing through this otherwise stellar game was just a blast to revisit, and I'm glad I did so before the equally stellar Rift Apart as a nice lead-in to the PlayStation 5 exclusive. In general, the game is one of my favorites for the PlayStation 3, and I have no qualms giving this a Platinum tier ranking. Now, if Insomniac could just go back and give me a trophy list for Tools of Destruction, I'd be that much closer to completing the franchise. As a concept on paper, the idea of remote-controlled cars playing soccer sounds fun, but somehow Psyonix managed to make Rocket League into something that's not only fun, but is still going relatively strong to this day. And what's better is I felt that the trophies were rather easy to unlock, only asking you to play a bunch alone or with friends, and then dressing up your car to let the world know just how much you like Rick and Morty. It's a fantastic overall game that I still play on occasion, and I have no problem awarding it a Platinum tier ranking. The Spyro Reignited trilogy is the original 3 PlayStation titles rolled into one brilliantly remade package, all of which were a blast to play through and easy to unlock everything within, so I've lumped them all into one here to make this a bit easier like what I did with the South Park games. That said, each of these games does have something that makes them distinct from the others, so I'll just quickly mention those differences before we move on. Being the original game in the package, the first Spyro is much quicker to complete than the others, but it's still a genuine joy to replay every once in a while. I do wish there was just a bit more to do, but then I remember I have 2 other entire games I can play as well, and I'm not sad anymore. Ripto's Rage suffers from a simple problem of there being way too many things to collect, but each thing you collect helps progress you through the game and is at least easy to collect, so I'm not too heartbroken having to do them. Just a matter of sticking to your guns and collecting everything for this one like you're playing a Lego game. My personal favorite of the trilogy, Year of the Dragon is distinct for not only including 4 characters to play as, but giving them each their own playstyle and challenges to complete. There are admittedly 1 or 2 annoying parts, like Yeti boxing, but they aren't really that daunting of tasks to complete if you ask me. Then again, I have almost 20 years of playing these games to fall back onto, so maybe I'm a bit overqualified. The PlayStation 1 Spyro trilogy at the end of the day is one of my favorites in gaming, and being able to relive them with this collection and this brilliant remaster was a wonderful time. So much so I can safely award each game in the trilogy a Platinum tier ranking on this list. Bookending the Platinum ranked games on this list is the final plat I earned before 2020, Untitled Goose Game. This is another darling little indie title with a quirky art style and a fun sense of humor, but instead of being a hole that can never truly be satisfied, you play as a goose whose desire for chaos cannot be sated. Put those 2 in a room and see what happens. Being able to run around a small English village terrorizing the residents with your goosiness is just a joyful little experience, and is one of the best indie games to come out in recent memory, so thusly is well worth a Platinum rank on this list. And that is that. Not counting the games in 2022, since I'm making a video about those later, I have now ranked every game I've earned a Platinum trophy in. One of these days I might combine all these videos to make it a bit of an easier experience to watch, but we'll see. Either way, thank you all for watching, be sure to subscribe for more content, follow me at the socials shown on screen, and I will see all of you in the next video. Take care.